वहै तेजस्विनापधीतमस्तु मा शावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. We should shuffle. And the shuffling is so that there is no first, last, nothing. Shuffling is to bring in Bhagavan into the whole satsang. Shanti mantra, asking for the limbs to cooperate, etc. Is this to override any karmic effect? Karmic effect means what? Override any karmic. Yes, yes, and we spoke about that. We spoke about the fact that because of prarabdha karma, for example, sitting may be difficult. So, and sitting is important because it's awkward to stand and listen. How long can you stand and listen? Okay? And so sitting to listen is the accepted practice. Sitting may be difficult for numerous reasons, and there could be pain, there could be some problems, so many things. And so we pray for the limbs to cooperate and for that particular prarabdha to be neutralized, or for me to grow stronger so that I am not affected so much by that. That is the idea, yes. Does this mean that karma effect can be reduced and eliminated? Of course, definitely it means that. Why? Because karma is due to what? What is karma? Oh, here it means result of action. It's used both. So here it means what? Result of action. So here what is karma? Result of action. And what is the result of action coming from? Whose action? Neighbor's action. No, your own action. Right? Your own action and your own results. Your own action where your free will was either abused or you went in line with dharma. Only two options are there. So when the free will is abused, one gets discomfort. Uncomfortable situations in the here or the hereafter. And when the free will is not abused, when you go in line with dharma, then good results come. Your own karma. So that prarabdha from the past, let's say it is durita. Durita means difficult karma, papa karma. That's going to fructify by giving a body that is constantly complaining. To whom? The mind. And the mind also complains. And so, being in this kind of a body, this kind of a mind makes it not conducive for Vedanta Shravanam, for the study of Vedanta. One is distracted, one is not only Swayam distracted, Anyan distractayati. Okay? Distracts other people also. And so, because of many reasons. So since that is not seen, because this part of the karma is just fructifying, so tomorrow one is going to have pain in a certain part of the body. Who knows? Nobody knows. Even the person who is about to have that pain doesn't know. Correct? They don't know at all. And so, what to do in that situation? What to do? The best thing to do is to see that karma, the product of my past actions which is unleashing now has to be countered by new karma that is set in place, set forth in the form of this prayer. So that is called adrishta, means unseen. It just comes. And here, when I pray, two kinds of karma phala are created. One is drishta phala. Drishta phala means immediate results, seen results, results that are capable of being objectified and understood. And what is that? Once I have said the prayer, there is a calmness of mind, there is a peacefulness. That is drishta phala. Then there is adrishta, which is not seen, which may be held in abeyance, a portion of the result held in abeyance, and then it will fructify some other time at Bhagavan's will. But I can direct the prayer for this adrishta to neutralize that adrishta, which is causing problems. It's really like a flu vaccine or something like that. Yeah. So you inoculate yourself against prarabdha karma by the onslaught of prarabdha karma by chanting these mantras. The Shanti mantra, everything. Okay? You inoculate yourself. And then what happens is that there is a freedom. And so, yes, you can neutralize the karma if it is not prabala, forceful, but if it is forceful, you can at least mitigate it. Is adesha the term for guru teaching? No, not teaching, sharing Atma Vidya. Yes, dish, to teach. Dish, the root verb, when it is made into a masculine noun, deshaha. Asamantat deshaha, adeshaha. So, meaning totally and completely taught. This is the only thing that can be totally and completely taught. Nothing else can be taught, really, fully. Even something simple as sweet taste. How are you going to describe? Gulab jamun, how are you going to describe? Let's say somebody from Mars comes, because now we are getting some radio frequencies and all, so many things are happening. Somebody from Mars comes and you want to welcome them and offer them gulab jamuns. They will perhaps through sign language and AI ask you, what is this? And you say it is sweet. How are you going to describe? You have to say, that's all. There's no way of describing. But Brahma Vidya can be given wholly because that Brahman happens to be you. Nothing to keep back. And it is whole, it is free, it is you. It is ever experienced in the form of aham, aham, aham iti. It cannot shut up. It cannot be made to shut up. And so, this is something that can be given fully, absolutely fully. And that's why it is adeshaha. Gaining which, there is nothing more to gain, nothing more to know, nothing more to do. Oh, bada question. Let's see. So, I have been taught that Brahman is unchanging, consciousness is unchanging, but I have two doubts. I have also read that consciousness is fresh and ever new. Can you explain this apparent contradiction? Glad you said apparent. Yeah. Ever fresh, ever new means, you see, we don't have the words to explain this at all. We don't have words. Because we are trying to explain something that is not an object, that does not have attributes, that is not related or connected to anything else, number 3, and that which is free of action. So there is no jati, no guna, no kriya, no sambandha. How are you going to communicate this? What can you do for this? You can't do anything. The hands are tied, okay? And then all the swamis have to become unemployed. No job swamis one becomes. Because what is the job? Because there is nothing to, how to communicate, how to do this. In fact, the teacher in the Kenopanishad says so much. Na vidmo na vijanimo yatha etad anushishyat. How to teach this, we ourselves don't know. How to teach this means what? Then the teacher proceeds to teach. So obviously he or she knows how to teach, but you can't teach it like a normal subject matter which has attributes, which is related to another branch of knowledge in certain ways, which is connected to other things, which has which has some effects, actions, effects, etc. You can't teach it that. Why? Anyadeva tad viditat. Viditat anyaha. Anyat eva. So, from that, everything that is known, it is other than that. Oh, so Brahman will forever be unknown. Again, unemployed Swami scenario. Because if Brahman is forever unknown, there is nothing to know. There is nothing to know, so nobody needs to teach, because what will they be teaching if there is nothing to know? Then it is amended by immediately saying, Atha u aviditat adhi. It is also other than the known, it is other than the unknown. Other than the unknown we understand, because it's not unknown. It's other than the known. Known means as an object. And so the whole Vedanta Shastra thrives on these paradoxes. The whole thing is a series of paradoxes. That's why you have to have a permanent as though. You have to have nylon strings and apostrophes hanging above the head of any Vedanta teacher. You just have to have that, and then you have to teach. Because everything is as though. Even the teacher is what? Shishya is what? As though. Bhagavatta means Ishwaratvam, Ishwaraness, as though. Jivaness, as though. Jagat, of course, as though. Everything is as though. And out of this as though, we have to, as though, have a conversation with this, with all these limitations, with all these difficulties. And so we do our best, and there will be tremendous apparent contradiction. Because if the teacher were to say, Brahman is ancient, then we will think of Brahman like a fossil, correct? Yeah, it is there. Like you go to museum, see dinosaur bones. And then you will say, yes, Chandogya Upanishad also said, Sadeva Somya idam agre asit. Past tense. So that means what? Brahma asit. Brahman was there. Go to this museum. Yeah. Reconstructed Brahman museum. Okay, that is what we will have to go. That is the orientation. If you say Brahman is ever ancient, then you say what? No, Brahman is new. Then that means what? It wasn't there before, and it is new, it has come now, and then it's not going to be there tomorrow. This is what the conclusion one will come to. That's why to keep the mind completely in a state of, confusion. The student's mind should be like what? Khichdi. All mixed up. All the notions and everything are tossed repeatedly. So there's nothing to hold on to. All the familiar grips, familiar hold on to categories have to be tossed. The student's mind has to just be in a permanent state of flux, so that there is nothing to hold on to. And when there is nothing to hold on to, then only the knowledge takes place, because I'm not holding on to it. It is me alone. One understands, and then one understands without being the knower. It's a knowledge without a knower. Another paradox. Every branch of knowledge, what is there? Knower is there. Who knows this? I know this. I know this for a fact. I have studied this for 10 years. So 10 years you study Brahma Vidya. Let's say you understand this, you gain self-knowledge, and then you cannot put a board on the chest and say, what? I have self-knowledge. If you do that, you can't put it on the t-shirt. I have self-knowledge. As soon as you put it, what will happen? That means you don't have it. Because it is a knowledge without a knower. Why? How is it possible to have knowledge without a knower? Because it is in the form of that which is to be known. It is in the form of you. You are the subject. You are the subject matter of this knowledge. And then it is a knowledge that knocks off the knower. So when there is no knower, then only the knowledge has taken place. So one cannot say, I have self-knowledge. And so that is itself complicated. And then this knowledge, when did it come? Is there an enlightenment day? Yeah, even though many so-called, what are they called? Self-styled God men, God women celebrate Enlightenment Day. Whether it's them or they let their Shishyas celebrate, yes. Ayushman Bhava, we have to say, live long and happy. Because if somebody says, I am a Mahatma, that has an Enlightenment Day, what might that day be? Let's say it is January 1st. January 1st, because why not? New Year is my own Enlightenment Day. That means, what were you on January 31st? I was a Dumbo, okay? With regard to this knowledge, I was a total ignoramus on December 31st. January 1st, the knowledge came, all right? And we can wax eloquent, sitting under a tree. Now, what knowledge came? Do not sit under trees for the fear of unexpected droppings, okay? Maybe that's the enlightenment, but anyhow, knowledge came, let us say. Then what is controlling the coming of this knowledge? What is controlling? The Gregorian calendar is controlling when you had this knowledge. That means what? Calendar is another upalakshana for time. So if this knowledge is subject to time, subject to all the divisions of time, then that means what? What is gained in time is lost in time. And besides, time, so-called enlightenment is not an event that happens to the self. In fact, self is the canvas upon which all events come and go. It's the timeless canvas. It's the other way around. So therefore you cannot celebrate Enlightenment Day. Therefore this knowledge cannot have an agent or an owner or a knower. Is not there. One more paradox. Knowledge is there. Knowledge needs to be gained, but not as a knower. And so you cannot say Pura. Pura means old. Brahman is old means it's just like my grandfather, grandmother. They are getting old. They are on their way out. So Brahman also needs a stick. Pretty soon Brahman will need a wheelchair. And then after that, Ram Naam Satya Hai. Bye bye Brahman. So this is where the mind will go. Then if I say Brahman is ever fresh, then that means what? It wasn't there. Then it will not be there. So the Shastra purposely confuses us by saying Pura and Nava. Pura plus Nava, Puranaha. That is how it is. So it is an apparent contradiction, all right, and that is why it is put in this way. Okay. And then another doubt. What was the second doubt? How does the changeless Brahman create the universe? Doesn't it go through some change to will the universe into being the something of itself? I get the drift, even though I can't read one word, doesn't matter, I get the drift. So how does the changeless Brahman create the universe? If you want to know the honest answer, it does not create. No, but what about the universe? If you ask, then I will ask the same question back. What about it? No, this universe is there. That is your opinion. Yes. Is there means what? Is there means it's always changing, it is always subject to destruction. So what kind of an is it? So it is an is that is fraught with impermanence. And so it has its source elsewhere. Will the real is please stand up? And at this point, Brahman should stand up and raise the hand. Me. But Brahman is what? Changeless, actionless, and handless also. It doesn't have apani padam tat. So it doesn't have hands or legs. So it cannot, poor thing, raise a hand and claim agency. But then we say Jagat Karanam Brahma, the Brahman that is invested with what? Invested with causality. So it is an as-though causality superimposed upon that which is free of causality. And the Jagat is an as-though effect. That Brahman itself is Jagat. The Jagat is non-separate from Brahman, and as-though effect without really becoming an effect. And so this as-though causality that is superimposed upon Brahman is due to another as-though power. What is it called? Maya Shakti. As-though power. Where did this as-though power come from? See, for as-though things you don't ask where did they come from. I'm already telling you it is as-though. Then it's not fair to ask where did this as-though power come from. How can you ask me that? Because already the caveat was made. What was the caveat? As-though power. No, but where did this as-though power come from? If you keep on insisting on asking that, then I will have to say everything has come from what? Brahman. So then this Maya Shakti is also non-separate from what? Brahman. Everything that has come from Brahman is real or as though? As though. Maya Shakti therefore is also what? As though. As though from Brahman it has as though come. She is the creatrix. Full of tricks. Okay? For who? Not for Brahman. For Brahman she gives the status of what? Ishvara. And the shadow side, now everybody flew by the dark side of the moon, the side that is not available for earth, just to see what it was like. Then they found out it is exactly like the side that they can see. So the little drive-by they did, not much difference. Okay? But unlike that, the other side of Maya is not exactly the same side that is facing Ishvara. The side of Maya that faces Ishvara is what? All knowledge, all power, all Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti Swarupini. She is the goddess that makes things happen. She is the shaker and the mover of the universe. And she is avyakta. She is always there as a latent power. And from that, she creates. And then The side that is facing the jiva, when you do a drive-by, you see completely opposite, totally opposite. What do you see there? You see sad faces. What happened? I don't know. I just asked you how you were 15 minutes ago. That time I was okay. Now what happened? I don't know. And so, sad, angry, upset, unfulfilled, discontented, demanding. This is the side of Maya. Meaning, avidya avachinna chaitanya is called jiva. Avachinna, as though conditioned by ignorance. That same Maya is called avidya when it faces the jiva. Why? Because the Maya is made up of Shuddha Sattva and Malina Sattva. Shuddha Sattva he faces Ishvara, so there is no impurity there. And Malina Sattva, the Maya, along with certain impurities, Ajnanam and Anyatha Jnanam, etc., faces the side of the jiva. So that is called Ajnana Avachinna Chaitanya. This Shuddha Chaitanya in the form of Satchidananda is in the form of what? Ajnana Avachinna, as though conditioned by ignorance. And then on the other side is what? See, all Vibhuti Avachinna Chaitanya. A Chaitanya as though conditioned, that same Chaitanya, as though conditioned by all the glories of the universe. Everlasting glory, everything is glorious. One side glorious, the other side inglorious. One side Lord, the other side lorded over by. And so, like this, there is again an apparent contradiction. So, therefore, this Maya Shakti, which is instrumental in bringing out Jivatvam and Ishvaratvam, which are what? Mithya. Don't say Jiva is Mithya, Ishvara is Mithya, Jiva is Ishvara. Don't say Jiva and Ishvara are Mithya. Jivatvam, Jivahood is Mithya, Ishvarahood is Mithya. And the same consciousness wearing a glorious dress is called Ishvara. The same consciousness wearing tattered clothes and full of tears and fears is called what? Yes, that is what it is. When we are happy, is it because the mind is silent and or true, full nature of happiness shines, or is it because there is a vritti in the mind with the emotion of happiness? If it is sometimes one and sometimes the other, how do we know which is which? The question is this: Swarupananda and Vishayananda. Vishayananda is because of thought patterns, thought forms, which are called vritti, thought forms. So, vritti jnanam, vritti brings in certain information. A thought form carries with it certain information, experiences, etc., experiencing which, what happens? The mind is happy. Chocolate cake, mind. And then there is happiness. And the degrees of happiness are talked about in the Upanishad. You see the chocolate cake, a few teeth come out. Just a few. Because you don't know it is for you. So therefore it could be somebody else's. But still, Ishtavastu darshanat. There is a condition in the mind, a vritti, modification, that is called priya. Then the other person assures you, it is for you, please have, take, this chocolate cake is for you. And then there is another vritti, another modification that takes place, which is called what? Moda. Few more teeth come out to bite into the chocolate cake. Few more teeth come out. This is moda. But still, there is many a slip between the cup and the lip. And the person who gave you the chocolate cake is still standing there. Yeah. You have to say thank you, and close the door on them because you don't want to share. Okay? So thank you for giving it. You close the door on them, tighten the bolt, and then you sit down to inhale the chocolate cake. All right? And then there is another vritti. What is that? Pramoda. Etavathi. This is alone the gamut of various vritti-based happiness. And then there is status-based happiness, which is also based on vritti. So if you have Manushya status, you can be happy this much. And then if you have the status of being a Deva, then you can be even more happy. Then Indra and then Prajapati. Indra also has a boss, Indra is the boss of all the Devas, but Indra also has a boss. Indra has a guru. Prajapati is the boss. Brihaspati is the teacher. So like this, there are, Indra is not the boss of everybody. Indra is also lorded over. So, understanding this, one sees that this vritti-based jnanam or happiness has an ebb and a tide. It comes up, goes down. Comes up, goes down. But the one who notices that things are coming up and going down is who? The invariable I, whose happiness is one's own swarupa, and which is not dependent upon the coming and going of objects in the universe. Objects includes events, people, situations, etc., including pets, all these things. So whenever there is a dependent happiness, a happiness that is Vishaya dependent, that is called vritti happiness, vritti-based happiness. And Swarupananda is how the Bhagavad Gita describes as Atmani eva Atmana tushtaha sthita prajnaha tada uchyate. Atmani tushtaha Atmana tushtaha. In themselves they are contented. By themselves they are contented. And some people tell me, I don't need people. I also am by myself only. I can just be in a room. And you see, I won't even come out. I'll say, really? Give me your phone on the way to the room. Let's see how long you stay there. Surrender all your devices here. Yeah. iMac, iPhone, yeah. iPad, without which I'm mad, yeah. All that you put here, and then go lock yourself up. Let's see how long you will, you'll come out with your hair, tearing your hair out in clumps. Within 5 minutes, you'll come running out. Most people will come running out. So that shows it's neither Atmani, the Tushti is neither centered on Atma, nor is it centered on what? Anything that one may have. So it is not centered on Atma, and therefore it is centered on whatever one wants to have. It's a desire-based Ananda. But really, it's not a separate Ananda, it's in the same gamut of the same Ananda. You can't have Brahman Ananda, Brahmananda be a special experience. Because anything that is special and anything that is an experience has a beginning date and end date. That's what is called an experience. You get into it and get out of it. But here we are not talking of experience. We are talking of the nature of the self as free of having so many agenda, so much demand. That is what has to be understood. So the quote, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad quote from the morning still stands. What was that quote? Etadheva hi eva anandaha. This is the ananda that all the devas lesha leshatah or matram eva sarvani bhutani upajivanti. They just drink little pieces of this ananda because they don't know. The truth of themselves is the storehouse of ananda. They don't know that. So like a dog chewing on a dry bone, causing the gums to bleed, thinks that the juice has come from where? The bone. It is making a wrong anumana. The juice has not come from the bone, the juice belongs to the dog. Raso vai saha rasagyhyevayam labdhva nandi bhavati. Raso vai saha. This is the one that has rasa. All the juice belongs to Atma. Rasa means sara, the essence. Gaining this understanding, one becomes what? Nandi, sitting in front of Shiva. No, Anandi, happy. One becomes happy. One understands I am the source of this happiness. So it takes some time to see that. But this is how to see that. Are you content by yourself, as yourself? That is the way to look at, without depending on any prop. If I am all-pervasive consciousness, why is my awareness limited to the body, senses, manas, buddhi? Shouldn't I be aware of all senses, sensations, and all the buddhis and the manaha of all the beings? Thank God you are not. Imagine, one headache you cannot tolerate. If you had all the headaches of the world at one time, can't even get out of bed most days. Because let's say in a population of 8 billion, how many people shall we say are having headaches? Okay? So even if 1% is having a headache, 1% of 8 billion is what? That many headaches you will have. The force of all that you will have. Thank God there is an arrangement for this so-called identification with one particular body, one particular mind, one particular set of senses. Even that we can barely manage. Okay? I can barely manage being in one body. So imagine if I was in all the bodies at the same time. Okay? Only Bhagavan can do it as though. So that consciousness is everywhere, but it is identified with this body in 3 ways. First is sahaja tadatmya. All this is explained beautifully in the Panchadashi. Sahaja tadatmyam means a kind of a natural association. If somebody pinches you, the person sitting next to you will not say, ow. You will say, ow. Okay? Sahaja tadatmya. And this is important because if I am walking, I should not fall. I have to see if there is a rock there, I have to avoid. Only I can do that. I am the managing trustee of this body, mind, sense complex. I have to take care of this body. Somebody else will not come and tell you what you want. You have to decide. Even to buy a pair of glasses, you have to sit in front of that machine. The machine is very sophisticated. You think, oh, I don't have to choose, let them choose and give me something. That doesn't work that way. After all, the optometrist will put those empty frames and then will put that. Do you see now? Yes, what can you see? A big E, that's all you can see. okay, on the chart. That's all you can see, that's all you can remember. How about now? Is it better? Yeah, it is better, it's brighter, it's easier to see. And then by the time you have not even finished saying it's better, how about now? How about now? You have to choose. Even the best optometrist cannot tell you what you need. And then you always come away wondering if you got the wrong pair of glasses. Seems to be a universal experience. So you have to tell. There has to be some identification with this body-mind-sense complex in order for this to happen. I have to take care of this. It is a Bhagavan-based identity with this body. So the consciousness is everywhere, but the consciousness as obtains in this body for which I am responsible for this body. And then there is the karmaja tadatmya, there is another kind of an identification that's based on karma. Why this body? Somebody else has a Mercedes-Benz body, Rolls-Royce body, Porsche body, very fast, very fit. And what is this body? This body is a jalopy body. Yeah. Khatara body. Okay. The body which is what? Don't say it's a car because it is bekar. Okay. Yes. And this kind of a body, useless body. Then you wonder whole life, what use is this body? And so it is karma. So the karma, why in this body? Why in this body at this time? That is karma-based identification is there. Your own karma you are identified with on a subtle level, that's why it is given to you. Then finally there is one more kind of association based on delusion, wrong understanding of myself. This delusion-based identification which grieves sitting in this body, like the Mundaka Upanishad says, Anishaya shochati muhyamanaha. In the two birds analogy. One is Ishvara, another is what? Another bird? Jiva. Actually they are one. So, but it looks like as though it is two. Why? To the drunk Jiva, addicted to samsara, samsaraholic, sees two in the place of one. So, it doesn't know the Samaveda Shanti Mantra, this Jiva bird, so therefore it cannot say Maham Brahma Nirakuryam, and therefore it is alienated from the whole. It's alienated even from this other bird which is on the same tree. Anishaya Shochati. Anishaya means in the form of not being Ishvara, in the form of being confined to be this Jiva, Shochati, Muhyamanaha, the deluded one grieves. This is the third identification. This is what has to be removed through knowledge, and then the first two identifications do not bite anymore. They are toothless. They are rendered toothless. This is going on and on. Okay, now what else is there? If I'm, yeah, it's finished. Fantastic, wonderful. Now, if a person does not serve you, how do you continue yourself to forget and forgive? There is nothing to forget, nothing to forgive. If a person does not serve you, how do you continue? You serve yourself. Yeah. Serve the other person. Because the problem is not in the non-service, the problem is in my expectation of the service and my constant disappointment when that whatever I considered service does not come. And in that disappointment, there is suffering. So therefore what? So I either don't expect the service, or I learn to enjoy and serve myself. There is a kind of a happiness there also. And then, you don't need to forgive. Who are we to forgive ultimately? Let Bhagavan forgive. And so you can just let it go. Let it go. Because you cannot, I was telling somebody, you cannot what is that? Wring a rock, a small rock, and expect it to press some oil. So, where that capacity is not there to serve, if I expect service, it is a sad situation or a foolish situation. So therefore I train myself. It is not easy to do this. I train myself to not expect the service. Then why am I in this situation? Okay, get out of the situation. No, there are many things wonderful about this situation. Okay, continue to be in the situation. No, there is no service. So either way we can't talk. We have to decide one way or the other. So we stop expecting service where it does not come. Find situations which are more mutually reciprocal. That way you are not disappointed constantly. Then we know the great sages, Shivananda, Ramana Maharshi, Pujya Swamiji, etc., had undergone great tapas in their pursuits. What is the tapas in our days? Small Spanish snacks. That is the meaning of the word tapas. In our days. I was in Spain once. I had gone to a conference. I think it was the Parliament of World Religions in Barcelona. And then it said tapas shop. I said, oh, let's go there. I thought we went, everybody went there and, did tapas. They had to pull me back. They said, no, this is all small snacks. It's called tapas. So that is what our tapas has reduced to. If we do 1 minute meditation, we are very proud. Oh my God, I lasted 1 minute. Yippee, yay. And I said, even to sit in meditation, we need several cushions. Yeah, even today also I asked for a cushion, okay? After making the joke in the morning, by afternoon I said, can I please have a cushion? So this is what we are reduced to. And even for that, then we need a bell, okay? Because I need to have that ding, what is that called? Tibetan gong, Tibetan bell, Tibetan bowl, and for the meditation. And for reasons unknown to me, that comes with its own cushion. Okay, then you have to buy a special cushion to keep that bell also. Okay, and so by the time you have everything, there's a hole in your pocketbook, and then what do you meditate on? The whole, not the W-H-O-L-E. You meditate on H-O-L-E. Sad, so sad. So it has become complicated. So we don't have any idea of discipline. Shama, Dhamma, we always put it off till tomorrow. Uparati, how do you spell that? Shraddha, what's that? And then Titiksha, doesn't sound good. And then, what else is there? Samadhanam. Yeah. Vairagya I have. What? Oh, you have Vairagya, that's great. I have given Vairagya to Viveka. And I have given Vairagya to Shamadhama, etc. That's the only thing I have. So, this is our condition. That is why somebody said, in Kali Yuga, Vedanta Shravanam cannot take place. Vedanta cannot take place in Kali Yuga. That's what somebody said. And they were wrong, thankfully, because here we are. What are we doing here? We are studying Vedanta. Teaching is happening, and receiving is also hopefully happening. And so we cannot say that they were right. But many people think like this. Kalau kalmasha chittanam papadravyopajivinam vidhi vidhi prakara vihinanam harer namaiva kevalam. So in Kali Yuga, you just say Hari, 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 Hari. They just don't know. It means Hurry, hurry and get this knowledge. Hurry and get this knowledge. So, those proponents who say that because of the decline in discipline, Shama, Dhamma, Tapas, nothing is there, and so what's the point in studying Vedanta when the accoutrements of self-preparation for this knowledge, preparing the self for this knowledge are not there? What to do? Study this for what? So therefore, sit and do japa, at least you will get punya. So Kalau, see, Kalau means Kali Yuge. So Kalau, the word Kali itself means conflict, okay? Kalmasha Chittanam, whose minds are all full of Kalmasha. Kalmasha means what? Kilbisha. That didn't help, okay? So Kalmasha means all kinds of impurities. Raga, Dvesha, Krodha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, Kama, all these things. So Kalau, Kalmasha Chittanam, for people whose chitta, whose emotions, whose mind is completely vitiated by all these difficult, intractable emotions, chronic patterns of discontent, dissatisfaction, etc., and who make their living by committing papa. This is what we all do. Especially, there is no other way to make a living except through supporting the military-industrial complex. And so whatever you do is causing himsa somewhere or the other, somehow or the other. Somewhere, somehow is there. So therefore, Kalau Kalmasha Chittanam Papadravya Upajivinam Vidhikriya Vihinanam. They don't have any do's and don'ts. This person was telling, somebody knocked on the door. This person went to somebody's house, knocked on the door in America, knocked on the door at 11:30 in the morning, and they had said they will come by, not given the exact time, sometime between 10 and 11 or something like that. They were a little bit late, so they knocked around 11:15, 11:30, and then nobody came, nobody opened the door. And then what? What did they say later on? Why didn't you open the door? Maybe you were out of town. No, I was there. We were inside. Why didn't you open the door? Didn't feel like. Okay. So, like this, all this we go with the feelings, and we have enthroned the feelings to the level of reality. And so, there is no vidhi, there is no discipline, there is no time to get up, there is no time to sleep. Nothing we are following. Wake up with the sun. Who is following that? No, that's why I stopped giving sunrise examples. Now, because nobody has seen the sunrise. Alas. But everybody knows the sunset. So now I stick to sunset examples. So then, vidhi kriya vihinanam, what else is left other than to do japa? This is the contention of some people. But there are always adhikaris, and there can be more and more adhikaris, so therefore we continue to teach. So yes, this is a problem, and then, we are being too comfortable. And in fact, many people who come here, they say, this is a 5-star ashram. Yeah. So many times a day we are fed. And in between there are other things also. It's like that lady who went to the doctor, and the doctor said, I think you should go on a diet, okay? And she said, yes, I will go on a diet. But doctor, I have never been on a diet. I don't know what to do, you please tell. So the doctor said, it's very simple really. Just have some cereal in the morning with skim milk you have. And then afternoon you have maybe 1 or 2 chapatis with some vegetables. Evening you can have the same thing. And then she said, I have a doubt. What's your doubt? Should I have this before lunch, before dinner, after lunch, after dinner? So therefore it is difficult to prescribe anything because the mind is not ready. Yet we persevere. Because thankfully all these qualifications, even though they may sound very daunting, the beauty is that if you get one, they drag in the rest. Pujya Swamiji used to say, it's like eating noodles. You stick your fork in it, can you just get one? No. Bunch of them come. So if you have Shraddha, then Titiksha will come. Samadhanam will come. If you have Viveka, Vairagya, it will drag in. Like that, we slowly grow against all odds. So it doesn't mean we cannot study Vedanta. It just means that we have to work a little harder. And then it's a joy to work a little harder because we are together, and also the taste of the fruit, jnana phala, in the form of moksha, is sweeter yet when we work harder. So we don't balk from hard work. It makes us even more determined. These two will, 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 we will answer tomorrow. And some more you can put if you want. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om